Today's Sunday school lesson is for October the 2nd, 2022. The title of this lesson is Obedience and Worshiping God Alone. This is the Union Gospel Press, but if you want to see the International Sunday School Lesson version, click the link below. The scripture text for this lesson is Exodus 20, verses 1 through 11. Today's aim is to study how God makes himself known to his people through a covenant with his people, Israel. Principle: to show that our God is a covenant-keeping God like no other. Application: to affirm that God gives us his rules for our blessing and always keeps his side of the bargain. Beginning with verse 1.
Chapter 20. 10 Commandments for the Covenant Community. Then God gave the people all these instructions. I am the Lord your God, who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of your slavery. You must not have any other God but me. You must not make for yourself an idol of any kind, or an image of anything in the heavens, or on the earth, or in the sea.
In Scripture, we constantly see the evidence of God who is active in the lives of his people. When they were in deep trouble, he rescued them. When they were in danger, he protected them. When they needed food and provision, he provided for them. In Israel's deliverance from Egypt, God shone forth his glory and showed his people that he was there and that he never left their side. He is a God who was always present with them. The fact that verse 1 specifically states that God spoke all the words that follow assures us that Moses did not copy ideas or instructions from any previously established treaty. Continuing.
You must not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God who will not tolerate your affection for any other gods. I lay the sins of the parents upon their children. The entire family is affected, even children in the third and fourth generations of those who reject me. But I lavish unfailing love for 1,000 generations on those who love me and obey my commands.
Here is a command related to properly worshiping God. Their conception of God was to be spiritual rather than material. The Israelites were not to make any carved images to represent God. They were not to worship idols, nor were they to make images of him. The Hebrew word that has been translated graven is pesel. This word is derived from the primitive root pesel, which specifically refers to something that was carved out of wood or stone. His command was clear: thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. This is the logical follow-up to the first command, in which God said they should not have any gods besides him. Making images would lead them into disobeying that first command. Continuing with verse 6.
You must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The Lord will not let you go unpunished if you misuse his name. Remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath day of rest dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, and any foreigners living among you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and everything in them. But on the 7th day he rested. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy.
The mode or fashion of worship appropriate to only one Lord forbids any attempts to represent or characterize him by use of anything he has made. Total censor of the artistic expression was not the issue. The absolute censor of idolatry and false worship was the issue. Violation would seriously affect succeeding generations because the Lord demanded full and exclusive devotion, i.e., He is a jealous God. Sabbath 7 through 11. Respect God's name. God revealed Himself as Yahweh to Moses. God specifically stated that His name should never be used lightly or frivolously. It is obvious that when God told Moses the name He was to use with the people of Israel, He meant it to cause a sense of wonder, amazement, and hope. It was a treasure. It was to reassure Israel that He was indeed present and coming to their assistance. It is sad that in our day there is often little or no respect for God's name. We as believers need to be especially careful about this as we endeavor to counteract the world and be a testimony to it. Charles Erdman noted that this command is not merely a prohibition of profanity. It is that as such is distressingly disregarded in the present day. More specifically, however, the commandment forbids perjury. Leviticus 19:12. It indicates that sacredness of an oath. The book of Exodus. This is reiterated in Deuteronomy 6:13, which says, "Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God and serve Him, and shalt swear by His name." This type of oath became a solemn, sacred obligation that was never to be taken lightly. This particular command is coupled with solemn warning. The Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh His name in vain. Exodus 27. The Hebrew word translated guiltless means in many contexts to be clean. God will never excuse a person for using His name irrelevantly. Respecting the Sabbath. This is not the first time the Sabbath was named as a holy day. When God gave Israel manna, every day they were to gather just enough for that day's use. On the sixth day, however, they were to gather enough for 2 days, for there will be no manna on the seventh day. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which ye will bake today, and boil that ye will boil, and that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. Verse 23. The Sabbath day was to be held as a day set apart from the other days of the week. All work was to be done on the other 6 days. The Hebrew word for Sabbath is Shabbath and means intermission. It comes from a primitive root, Shabbath, which means to repose or desist from exertion. It is clear from these definitions that the Sabbath day was to be viewed as the day of rest. This was supposed to include every person and every animal that worked: parents, children, male and female servants, animals, and visitors or guests. By the time of the prophet Jeremiah, Israel had wandered far from the commands of God. One day God had Jeremiah stand in the gate of Jerusalem and warn, "Thus saith the Lord, take heed to yourselves and bear no burden on the Sabbath day, nor bring it in by the gates of Jerusalem. Neither carry forth a burden out of your houses on the Sabbath day, neither do ye any work, but hallow ye the Sabbath day, as I command your fathers." Jeremiah 17:21 through 22. Their ancestors had not obeyed and had been punished because of it. When Nehemiah saw the people violating the Sabbath, Nehemiah 13:15 through 16, he contended with them, verse 17, and had the city gates shut. Throughout the Old Testament, the Sabbath day was important for the Jews. Practical points. 1. God's commands have authority because they are based on who He is and what He has done. No person or thing is to take precedence over God in our lives. We distort God's holiness when we replace God with representations of God. We dishonor God when we bring disrespect on His name. We honor God as Lord of all by setting aside one day a week for worship. By participating in weekly worship, we acknowledge God as Creator. This concludes the Union Gospel Press Sunday School lesson. Like the video. Have a great day.